When sewing our gathers, we need to make sure our stitch length is set to 4.5 to 5 point length. This makes the stitches a lot looser, and it allows us to pull the threads to make our gathers. We're going to start by sewing a 3/8 inch stitch, which is just 1/8 of an inch away from our foot. From here, we're going to line up the edge of our fabric to the edge of our 3/8 line. Drop your foot and no backstitch, because we want to be able to pull our gathers. We're going to hold our thread, making sure it doesn't get caught, and start to sew. It should go a lot faster because our stitches are a lot bigger. Again, making sure that the edge of our fabric is constantly lined up with that 3/8 inch mark. And then all the way to the end and just sew right off the fabric, and we're going to leave a little bit of thread at the edge. And now we have our gathers at our 3/8 mark. Line up the edge of our fabric to the 1/2 inch mark and begin sewing again. And then sewing off the edge of the fabric so we have some extra thread. Now we have 2 stitch marks, our 3/8 and our 1/2 inch. Let's begin to pull the threads and make the gathers. We're going to try to pull 2 of the threads. We're just going to pull the top ones, and those should gather nice and easy. Everything else should follow. And you're gently easing the fabric towards the center. I like to pull from both ends, just gently pulling and gathering the fabric, gently easing it down and trying not to break the thread. Now that we've created all these lovely gathers, we need to match the width of the gathers to the piece we're sewing into, or into the notches that have been marked for us. My gathers are a little tight, but I'm going to start pinning on one end, matching the top edge of my fabric, and I'm going to start to evenly space them out along the length of my fabric. Now that I'm getting close to the edge of the fabric, I'll just make sure that the edges are matching up on this side. As soon as I'm happy with the general distribution of gathers, I'll throw in a few more pins. Now we're going to go ahead and sew, making sure the tail ends of our gathers do not get sewn into our seam. We're going to sew at the 1/2 inch mark, but first, drop our stitch length down to 2.5 and we'll stitch this into place. We'll add a backstitch and we'll continue on with the sewing. Removing the pins as we move the fabric along. At the end, we'll backstitch again, and we'll clip all our threads. We now have our sewn gathers.